I have friends that were in the space that have transitioned to a different role or their position has been eliminated altogether. Do you see this type of thing happening? It's a regional situation in terms of the time horizon that DEI is going to be important or valued?
Excuses are tools of the incompetent. They built monuments of nothingness, and those who dwell upon them seldom amount to anything. So from that, I remove all the excuses.
Dr. G is bringing the fire. And if you don't know Dr. Giovanna Brosfield, she don't play. She has recently been selected by the Los Angeles Times as the 2024 Inspirational Woman and also the Los Angeles Business Journal's Leaders of Influence. And something tells me she's probably been nominated and awarded several other accolades since the last time we talked because she don't mess around, man. Luckily, we worked things out so that we could spend some time, get to interview, and I'm super excited to release her message to the world. I get to learn a lot about like her expertise in DEIB, and she shares, some of the real challenges to these DEI programs that people out there in the industry are dealing with. And she also kind of gives the secret code or the early indicators that signal to her that this program has got legs, like it's really going to happen. I'll give you a hint. It's all about transparency behind the closed doors. So you're going to love it. I anticipate that you're going to get a lot of value and some enlightenment. And we don't just talk about DEI stuff. We also talk about her journey, her path in terms of personal growth, the resources that she tapped into to help her develop into the amazing gangsta OG that she is today. And those things are something that all of us can put into practice, put into play in our lives to achieve and serve in the manner that we wish to. Before we go on and letting you get some more Dr. G, I want to give a shout out to L&M family member Angela. Angela left this note and she says, "Your story is a beacon of hope for many. You light up the room in so many ways. Your stories inspire and create a path for people to discover a better version of themselves. What you are doing for construction and helping companies truly see their people is incredible. Keep it up." Angela, yes, ma'am, I will absolutely keep it up. And folks, she's referring to the stories in the book, Becoming the Promise You're Intended to Be, that are about transparency, about vulnerability, about sharing the dirty details of my life because I'm not the only one that's lived them. Anyhow, here we go to Miss Dr. G. Oh man, you know me, I gotta cut it off right when it starts getting juicy. We'll be back on the next episode for the second half. And oh man, what'd you think about that poem? You got it twice, and it's like, damn, reality check. I promise the next half of the conversation has got all kinds of wisdom, lots of laughs because we had a good time sharing back and forth and kind of, you know me, I can't help but goof around. And I want to give a shout out to this episode's sponsor, which is Becoming the Promise You're Intended to Be. If you or somebody you know is in the grips of addiction or in the grips of self-destructive behavior, that book is intended to help give you hope and give the individual that's struggling with the issues some hope. My buddy Lee pointed out that the life that I've lived, my buddy Lee pointed out that my life, my stories that I kept hidden for so long are living proof that can inspire others to take a step outside of the thing that they've been stuck in. There's a lot of stuff in there that even my mom says, "Mijo, you shouldn't have shared all that. People aren't going to like you. People are going to disconnect from you." And so far, that has been incorrect. Most of the people have embraced me and appreciated what it is I have to share. And the whole point is to just help one person. If one of the stories in there, if you can connect to one of the stories in there and decide to take significant action in your life and shift your thinking, then it was total then all the risk was totally worth it. Remember, be kind to yourself, be cool, and we'll talk at you next time. Peace.
What is going on, L&M family? I am here with the fabulous, gracious Dr. G. How
I
are
am
you
so
today?
well, and I'm so glad to start off our week with you, Jesse. This is a great time.
Oh, it's Monday. It's a Monday, and Mondays are my favorite. You know, I was doing research on you. I'm like, holy moly, like, man, I can't believe you squeezed me into your Hey, you're out there, girl.
Likewise. So I'm glad both of our schedules aligned and synced.
Oh,
The
man,
stars aligned.
so cool.
Oh,
Well, you know, so here's another thing. I know, like, you operate Brosfield and Associates, correct? Maybe you get the same thing I get. A lot of people kind of assume that I hang out at home making
Right.
brownies all day long.
which is so not the case.
Same
It
thing.
seems like I've never had an opportunity to work so hard, especially as a small business entrepreneur, just making things happen for clients, for self, for just the brand. And it's really just overcoming, I call it the leadership hurdles, right? In this space.
So I know you were in construction with Flatiron for a while. Help me understand, like, your path, your career path, because I'll just say right now, in my head, it's just, wow, amazing, at the top, pinnacle. And has it always been like that for you? What was the path, and what were the learnings and lessons you had along the way?
Man, I think this question is such a great question, because so many people always ask me, I think it was one of my last interviews. She stopped and she says, how does it feel to be the woman that has it all? The woman that has an amazing career, the woman that has all of these accolades and recognitions and awards, the woman that has now transitioned from corporate America into now small business and is still killing it. The woman that has an amazing relationship, the woman that has be a mom and the hats, and the list went on and on. And as I sat there, I was like, she's talking about me. And it blew me away to be classified as the woman that has it all. But what happens is, so far behind the smile, I call it, which is the aha moment, is people don't know I have a huge tribe, a board of directors that helped me show up in my present state, helps me stay strong in the face of adversity, helps me think about perspective and really come into my whole authentic, transparent self. And it's truly that smile, but it's these shoulders that I'm able to stand on and lean on and reach forward. That so often people just see me, but I'm representing so many people that have helped carve the Dr. G out. And oftentimes when sitting down and thinking about it, or even talking to people, they don't see the past of Dr. G. There's a Giovanna. There's a Giovanna Brosfield who has all these flaws, who has a story very much like challenges in life. Like, I love that you share your journey with others so they can see the whole picture. They see you today and they're like, wow, he's fabulous. But you're like, hey, I've had faced with all kind of challenges that I've overcome, that I'm working on, that I'm still improving. And that same journey goes for me too. And it's okay. It's a beautiful thing to have so many people holding you up, your tribe, that allows you to be uniquely made and beautifully shown up.
Oh, I love it. Okay. So the woman that has it all, I love it. Did that always have your attention? If you go back to university, before you entered the workforce, was it like, okay, I'm going to be the woman that has it all, and right now I'm the young woman that has it all, and I'm just going to stay on that path?
Man. No. It actually started from adversity. How I ended up in construction was just by raising my hand. I was really good at policy. I was focusing on my dissertation. I ended up having two. That was not my objective at all. But I had, yeah. So one was very challenging, and I ended up starting another program at the same University of Laverne. And from there, got released from one chair, circled back, ended up adding on to the body of knowledge in educational policy, and decided to get approval to finish both of them at the same time, same academic year.
Wow.
And so I thought because of that journey, I would really focus on looking at high school exit exams for Black and Brown students. And from that effort, there's like, hey, you're good at policy. I want you to really look at DBE certifications and help our smaller businesses get certified so they can do business with the state of California. From there, did exceptionally well, got hired on it with the contractor after I was consulting in 2004 in this space, brought on it with the contractor, managed a couple of their technical assistance programs, their outreach strategy, their inclusion, and then continuing to progress towards the higher ranks of compliance, mitigation of risk, looking at overall strategy when it came to inclusion from workforce, small business, youth engagement, charitable giving, social impact. The list goes on and on. But more so, how are those dollars being allocated to the bottom line, which would be the stakeholders at the community level? And it was interesting enough as our country was at such a pivotal point in 2020. Unfortunately, what was going on in our community, people were calling out for more, calling out for belonging, inclusion. And I kept getting calls from many different executives. And we're talking about CEOs, senior VPs, executive VPs about what are we going to do about inclusion? How does this really work? How long is this going to be around? What are we going to do for our people and our teams in different companies? So from there, I started to raise heart and mind first to jump out there and really help multiple companies when it comes to inclusion. And that's where I revisited jumping back out as a small business owner to help a magnitude of companies in this space of inclusion, belonging. And also now it's employee resource groups. So I do speeches, keynotes, employee resource group trainings. And of course, my favorite baby is I've been tapped on the shoulder by the $1 billion projects to really think about strategy for these large infrastructure projects and bringing teams and people together.
So you mentioned, how long is this going to last?
Yeah,
And
people ask that.
It's interesting because I have here local in Texas, because we're our own universe, right? I have friends that were in the space that have transitioned to a different role or their position has been eliminated altogether. Do you see this type of thing happening? It's a regional situation in terms of the time horizon that DEI is going to be important or valued?
There definitely is a huge political push to dissolve efforts. This has been around since the 60s. It has not been something new. I think that's where the hard part of the conversation starts, is most people think, oh, since George Floyd, here we are, and this is what it is, and it's more this one situation. I'm like, no, these policies and practices and theories and methodology, that's the bigger part. The theories and methodologies have been around since the 60s, if not before. In our now, these programs are not going to dissolve. They're transforming of what they look like, because now we came to a point where everyone was all in. Everyone wanted to do it. Everyone wanted to have an ERG. Everyone wanted to have a DEI program and inclusion. But how are they sustaining that? What does that really look like? Do they have someone that they've brought on as a practitioner like myself to really help them elevate the conversation? Think about long-term strategy, linking into their KPIs or even their strategic plan for whatever year, but having it something that changes the organizational culture. That's where the huge problem is. So you have these political attacks. Going back to your question, there's so many different political attacks that are happening right now on inclusion. There's policy, but there's also the other side where there's new organizations, these public agencies saying we can do more. At the federal level, there's programs that are being rolled out to have X% of dollars that are from infrastructure being inclusive for neighborhoods, for programs, for small businesses. So there's the offset of that too. Where will we end up? I think that we're going to continue to have this momentum behind DEIB programs because employees are calling out. They're calling out to be included. We have a younger generation that is coming in who want to see these programs in order to stay at these organizations. They want to see these type of programs and how committed organizations and organization leaders are to DEIB.
And so in terms of commitment, what are like the ingredients that you recognize or maybe even look for in leaders or organizations that indicate to you that this is going to be a sustainable effort with minimal friction?
I look for the honesty and transparency. So I love my closed door conversations. Those closed door conversations get to the real root. Where really are they on the totem pole? How inclusive do they want to be? And I think that honest, truthful, transparent conversations allows me to do a better job at what I'm doing. rather than come up with this amazing program and I'm excited about it. And they're like, Dr. G, and I can't figure out why there's resistance, right? Because I've done that one before too, where I'm like, I have this amazing program that's going to cost very minimal. This is your budget. It aligns with all these things. The stars align over here. We have people to roll it out, but yet I can't figure out why we're not moving forward. Because you're not all in. You're not bought in. So again, closed door conversations first and foremost, because everyone's at a different starting point. I think one of my clients came to me and they're like, Dr. G, we want that program. I know they had to ask for my reference list, different projects I've worked on. So I had to show that for the particular consideration of what I was working on. They were like, okay, great. You worked with them on this. And they said you did an amazing job. We want that program here. Just do it cookie cutter. It should be cost savings. Cookie cutter cost savings. And I'm like, one, that client is 10 years with their DEIB program. You are rolling out your DEIB program. So the type of strategy and the conversations and the branding and marketing and the buy-in is night and day experience. And they're like, I need you to just do it fast, Dr. G. And I'm like, either we're looking for a check mark or we're looking for a sustainable long-term impact. Because, I wish I was like, I'll take that money. But I was like, no, you can't. I take your money. You want to check mark? No, but I end up not working with that.
That's the appropriate thing to do because it's better for you and them in the long run. I've heard one guy say, the thing about consultants is they don't have skin in the game. And I'm like, bro, if you don't experience the value that we made the deal on,
right?
Not only are you going to be frustrated, but you're going to tell everybody you know about me not delivering the value that I promised.
Right.
So I absolutely have skin in the game, and we are better served in saying, thank you. I'm not the right person for you. So what does it feel like to say that?
Well, I think about the good old days when every 2 weeks my check was in the bank and my bonus. So it's interesting conversations, but I have to be very real with clients, knowing that I want them to grow. That's my ultimate desire is I want them to grow, get strong, I'm truly changing their organizational culture and being more. So use that real conversation, but also the part that they're talking about, that skin in the game for consultants, it often happens because they're not transparent, right? Mm-hmm. They're not honest. They don't tell us the whole big picture when they're doing business with us. They're like, you only get to see this little small window piece. You don't get to see the whole square in the Zoom.
Oh, yeah.
It's a small little piece.
I like that. I have one rule usually when I'm working with people, and it's no bobbleheads. What I mean by that, you think of bobblehead, they just nod their head, they say yes, and they're polite, yes, yes. But then they go around the corner and start undermining all the efforts that were made in the room.
Yep.
So for me, that's like the most dangerous thing. I would rather have somebody in the room that says, this is crap. And I think it's a total waste of time.
Right.
Awesome. I know where you at. You know where I'm at.
Right.
And to figure that, how do we close that gap or come to and walk away? But keeping it a secret is the worst thing that can happen. You agree?
Agreed. Absolutely agreed.
So have you ever had a situation where you're supporting a team or an organization that has been kind of playing soft and filled with bobbleheads, and then all of a sudden they decided to come to play?
Not as a consultant. I'm like, on working with project teams, right? Where you have this amazing program you have to roll out, and then you can't get the traction and momentum behind it. And it's just not having the information's there, the data's there. You're showing the numbers and the different NAICS codes that you have the small businesses certified in. You have the zip codes of the economics of the community to bring in workforce. You have all this data, and it's just not getting momentum behind it. But they're like trying to move the project further along to say, we can't find them, we can't find them, we can't find them, we can't find them. And documenting every time, the documentation process. And you get halfway through, you're like, we have this, we have that. Or even anyone you recommend, it's not a fit. I've had that too. And you're like, we're contractually obligated to meet these criteria. So why are we still struggling in here? And that one, I don't know. I still haven't. Luckily, I don't have to deal with that anymore. But
it's funny because a lot of folks in construction, we want the metrics, prove the value, blah, blah, blah. As long as it serves me.
Yeah.
If it surfaces a gap in what I need to be doing where I should be, it's not that important anymore. It's biased data. You ever hear that?
Yeah, because the data is what the data is, and you can pull what you want to pull from the existing data to show your case.
Yeah.
Just like we can pull for data, we can pull opposition data.
100%. So you got how many PhDs? 6?
I feel like I'm paying for 6. I mean, I only have 2.
Only you? Oh my God, we got to cut this off. Only 6 PhDs. Jeez.
Yeah, both earned hard work, defended, earned, right? That's, from Laverne.
So when you were an undergrad, had you already decided I am going to get a PhD?
No, my undergrad was from Mount St. Mary's University, business administration, emphasis in marketing. I thought at that time I would, again, I was still interested in education. I never imagined really pushing my education to this magnitude. And I think it was at a point where I was like, I'm not ready to pay for the student loans. I'd rather invest in property. So in 21 years old, I'm investing in property. I'm like, I don't want to pay my loans. And I just kept enrolling. And then as I continued my education, I found my joy. I found something that brought me absolute joy, which is policy. And interesting enough, funny thing, I wanted to look at, in that before the educational dissertation, I was looking at interest group influence over air quality regulations. And I was studying particulate matters. And then I decided I was working at Nissan when they were here in Los Angeles and Gardena area. I decided I want to do that when they moved. I was like my anchor for that drive for particulate matter and carbon emissions. and left with Nissan. And so I just transitioned to education policy and then construction now, policy.
Okay. But you were dabbling in you were invested in real estate. And now you have your own business. I heard you mention the word brand, which I definitely want to get into. But this entrepreneurial investment mindset, where does that come from?
Oh, man. I think it's just pushing myself in a uncomfortable zone. That discomfort brings comfort because that's where the growth happens. Far too often, I was an advocating for small businesses, making sure that I had a voice in the room when we're talking about large billions and millions of dollars being allocated to the smaller firms, and those often overlooked or not included in some of the procurement opportunity. So the best way to learn and experience what they go through is to be in the driver's seat of the car.
Got it.
So in this space now, oh my gosh, I had to apologize to a few of the small businesses that I've helped over the years because I'm like, whoa, the things that I was telling you to do, the textbook stuff of it feels right, do this to live it. Oh man, wait on your invoice will be processed.
45 to 90, paid when paid.
Oh, sorry, we messed up on your ACH numbers and keying it in. We'll get back to you in a week or so. Really? Is that what it is? That's happened to me. Oh my gosh. Or even this one, helping out a team member, a small business owner. You have your scope identified as a consultant. You have your scope identified, what you're supposed to do, contractually obligated. Then I saw someone else doing something else that wasn't up to par. So me, thinking I was corporate, I'm like, I'll help him. I'll help him with his work. I just did it. So when my operations manager looks at my numbers, she's like, hey, you exceeded a couple of hours here. What is this? I think, well, you see, she's like, you have a overrun. I do. What do you mean? You know you don't get paid for that. What? Small businesses do this? But I wouldn't trade it for anything. The experience, the journey, the growth even has been priceless. I mean, I have learned so much about myself in this uncomfortable state of growth. And this is just year 2. And I've had amazing clients. Oh my gosh, amazing clients from when the first day I cleaned up my office. I remember I'm like going in the right direction. I love the company I'm working with. I love the project I was with at the time. And I'm like, I don't know about this, but I remember calling my first client and I was telling them, which is actually Procore. And I called and I talked to someone and I was like, hey, I'm doing a transition. And he's like, what, you're free? I said, yeah. He's like, Monday you will have a contract and you're going to help me with this executive leadership program. I need you to handle the DEI section and go. And I was like, done. Whoa. I don't even have an email address. Let me get my stuff together over the weekend.
No. Oh,
and I knew at that point it was confirmation I was going in the right direction.
Yeah. Because people recognize the value, which takes us to brand. But I want to share or relate a story very similar. When I made my transition to start my own business, had breakfast with the guys I was working with previously. And they're talking about they need a facilitator for a leadership retreat, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, man, I don't really know anybody that does that. And they're like, no, stupid. We're talking about you. Like, oh. Then he says, man, send me an invoice and I'll have a check for you the day of the event. I said, bro, I don't even know how to send an invoice.
Right.
Slow down, man. I just quit my job. But like, again, tie that back to brand. And you mentioned it. There's something deeper than in this idea of brand that most people overlook or miss. And so what is your brand, Dr. G, and how did you craft it?
It's basically simple. Delivery. Joy of delivery. Just making sure that each and every person that I work with is excited about the outcome. So I just remove all excuses. This is one of my biggest things. I remove all excuses and I try to have the positive outcome. So you think about everything that has to do in our industry. There's so many obstacles. There's so many hurdles. You have to think about things on the spot to come up with solutions to problems really fast. So rather than think about the excuses, one of my favorite poems is referred to excuses, like excuses are tools of the incompetent. They built monuments of nothingness, and those who dwell upon them seldom amount to anything. So from that, I remove all the excuses and I'm like, what could I do to solve this problem? And I really intentionally think about teams, think about people, the resources that I have available and accessible to me, and lean on them.
Wow. Okay. So I heard like resourceful, perseverance, grit, execution, delivery. How many of those are false?
They're all true. Said it all perfect to me.
Okay. Now, on that same line of thinking, though, how much effort, like conscious effort, do you have to put into maintaining that credibility? Or maybe another way to think about it is how fragile is that in terms of other aspiring leaders coming through down the pipeline?
Oh man, you know me, I gotta cut it off right when it starts getting juicy. We'll be back on the next episode for the second half. What'd you think about that poem? You got it twice and it's like, damn, reality check. I promise the next half of the conversation has got all kinds of wisdom, lots of laughs because we had a good time sharing back and forth and kind of, you know me, I can't help but goof around. And I want to give a shout out to this episode's sponsor, which is becoming the promise you're intended to be. If you or somebody you know is in the grips of addiction or in the grips of self-destructive behavior, that book is intended to help give you hope and give the individual that's struggling with the issues some hope. My buddy Lee pointed out that my life, my stories that I kept hidden for so long are living proof that can inspire others to take a step outside of the thing that they've been stuck in. There's a lot of stuff in there that even my mom says, Mijo, you shouldn't have shared all that. People aren't going to like you. People are going to disconnect from you. And so far, that has been incorrect. Most of the people have embraced me and appreciated what it is I have to share. And the whole point is to just help one person. If you can connect to one of the stories in there and decide to take significant action in your life and shift your thinking, then all the risk was totally worth it. Remember, be kind to yourself, be cool, and we'll talk at you next time. Peace!